Here's a question that has quietly annoyed readers for over 2,000 years. Why is this play called Antigone when the character who actually changes, suffers, and loses everything is not Antigone at all? It's Creon. Antigone knows exactly who she is, from her first line to her last. She never wavers, never doubts, never learns a single thing. She walks toward death like it's a door she chose to open herself. Creon, on the other hand, begins as a confident new king, and ends as a shattered man kneeling beside corpses he created. If tragedy is about a fall, then Antigone doesn't fall. She rises. Creon is the one who crashes. So maybe the title is a kind of misdirection. Maybe Sophocles wanted us watching the wrong person, so the real collapse could blindside us. Let's talk about who this play is really about. Quick setup, because the situation matters. Two brothers have just killed each other fighting on opposite sides of a civil war. One defended the city, the other attacked it. Creon, the new king, decrees that the defender gets a hero's burial, while the attacker's body must be left in the open. No grave, no rites, food for dogs and birds. Anyone who touches it dies. Now, to an ancient Greek audience, this isn't just harsh, it's monstrous. Denying burial wasn't a legal penalty. It was interfering with the gods themselves, trapping a soul that couldn't rest. Creon thinks he's protecting the state. He thinks order requires making an example. But notice what he's actually done. He's turned a private family grief into a public loyalty test. And the person he's testing is a teenage girl who happens to be the dead man's sister. The trap is set, for him. Antigone's response is instant. She'll bury her brother, law or no law, and she says so out loud, almost daring the world to stop her. What's striking is how little she agonizes. There's no long night of the soul, no weighing of options. She simply knows the older, unwritten laws. The ones about the dead, about family, about the gods, outrank any decree a man scribbled yesterday. In one of the play's most famous lines, she says, in essence, that she was born to share in love, not hatred. That's her whole philosophy in a breath. And here's the thing about characters who are that certain. They're magnificent, but they don't really develop. Antigone is a fixed star. She's the same person at her execution as at her entrance. That's not a flaw in the writing. It's the point. Her certainty exists to expose everyone else's doubt. Now watch Creon, because he's the one with the moving parts. When he announces his law, he sounds reasonable, even admirable. A leader insisting the city comes before any individual, that you can't reward traitors. Plenty of rulers have said exactly this. But listen to how quickly it curdles. The moment he's challenged, his language shifts from principle to ego. It stops being about the city and starts being about not backing down. He can't be seen yielding to a woman. He can't look weak in front of the people. He starts treating every disagreement as a personal insult and a conspiracy. This is the quiet tragedy of Creon. He mistakes stubbornness for strength and pride for principle. He's not evil. He's something more ordinary and more dangerous. A man who has confused his own will with the good of everyone around him. Let's zoom in on one detail that's easy to miss, and it's my favorite thing in the play. When Antigone is caught, she hasn't dug a grave. She's thrown a thin handful of dry dust over her brother's body. That's it. A symbolic scattering of earth, barely a gesture. But in that culture, it's enough to count as a burial, enough to satisfy the gods. Think about the scale here. An entire kingdom's law, a king's authority, life and death, all of it collides with a fistful of dirt. Sophocles is showing us how tiny the act of conscience can be, and how enormous its consequences. Creon has built a mountain of state power, and it's toppled by dust blown from a girl's hands. The symbol tells you everything. Real moral weight isn't measured in force. Sometimes the smallest possible act is the one that brings the whole structure down. There's a character people forget, and she deserves a moment. Ismene, Antigone's sister. At the start, Ismene refuses to help. She's frightened, practical, unwilling to die for a gesture. It's easy to read her as a coward, but she's actually the play's most human figure. She's what most of us would be. And here's the gut punch. Once Antigone is condemned, Ismene suddenly steps forward and tries to claim she helped too, so she can share her sister's fate. Antigone coldly refuses to let her. She won't share the credit or the death. It's a brutal little scene. Ismene wanted to live, then wanted to die beside her sister, and is denied both the safety and the sacrifice. She exists to show us the cost of Antigone's absolutism, that being right can also be lonely and unkind. Not everyone can be a fixed star, and the play knows it. Then comes Haemon, Creon's son and Antigone's fiancé. He arrives calm, respectful, trying to save his father from himself. He doesn't argue that the law is wrong. He argues that the whole city quietly agrees with Antigone, and is just too afraid to say so. It's brilliant advice. A good ruler bends, like a tree in a flood survives while the rigid one snaps. And how does Creon respond to his own son offering him a graceful exit? He accuses him of being a woman's slave. He insults him, dismisses him, and orders Antigone killed practically in front of him. This is the moment Creon's private stubbornness starts eating his own family. He had every chance to listen. His son literally handed him the metaphor for survival: bend or break. And Creon, of course, chooses to break. Haemon leaves, and we sense we won't see him alive again. Enter Tiresias, the blind prophet, and in Greek tragedy, when the blind man who sees the future shows up, you brace yourself. He tells Creon plainly, the gods are disgusted, the unburied body has poisoned the city's altars, and disaster is coming for Creon's own house. And here, finally, Creon cracks. He panics. He reverses himself, rushing off to bury the body and free Antigone. This is the closest he comes to wisdom, the recognition that he was wrong. But notice the timing. He doesn't change because he's persuaded by his son, or moved by justice, or touched by Antigone's courage. He changes because he's terrified of what the gods will do to him personally. His reversal is real, but it's driven by fear, and it comes a few crucial minutes too late. In tragedy, learning the lesson isn't enough. You have to learn it in time. And then everything collapses at once, off stage, reported back to us in a rush. Creon reaches the tomb and finds Antigone has hanged herself. Haemon is there, grieving over her body, and when he sees his father, he tries to strike at him, fails, and turns the blade on himself, dying with his arms around his dead bride. The news travels home, and Creon's wife, hearing that her son is dead, quietly kills herself too, cursing him with her last breath. In the span of minutes, Creon loses his niece, his son, and his wife, an entire family erased by his refusal to bend 1 inch. And crucially, he isn't killed, he's left alive. That's the real sentence. Antigone got the clean death of a martyr. Creon gets to keep breathing inside a house, full of the people his pride destroyed. He is not punished with death. He's punished with survival. So who is this play about? Antigone gives it a face and a title, but Creon gives it a shape. The long, terrible arc of a man who had a dozen chances to bend and chose to snap every single time. Here's the takeaway I'd leave you with. We tend to think the danger in life is being wrong. Antigone shows us the deeper danger is being right too rigidly, or being wrong for one moment too long. Creon isn't destroyed by a villain, a war, or the gods. He's destroyed by the exact minute he decided that changing his mind would look like weakness. The unwritten law Antigone died for was really very simple. Some things are bigger than your pride. Creon learned it. He just learned it standing over the bodies. Don't be the one who understands only after it's too late to matter. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If this gave you a new way to see the story, subscribe to Between the Chapters. A new literary deep dive lands every week, and I'd love to have you along for the next one.